They say rivers do not speak, but in Umuokoro, Azamba kingdom, one river holds secrets older than the village. A young woman named Nneka heard her name in the mist. When she answered, her life and the future of her people changed forever. This is the story of the river that spoke and the girl who dared to listen. The village of Umuokoro in Azamba kingdom was quiet under the first light of dawn, but for Nneka, peace remained out of reach. At 20, she felt a restlessness her mother could never soothe. She often felt drawn to the river Okamili, a place that frightened children and earned respect from elders. The river was said to whisper at night, offering both blessings and curses. Despite the warnings, Nneka felt the water calling to her, as if something deep beneath the shimmering surface awaited her. That morning, her life would change in ways she could not foresee. Her mother's words from the night before played in her mind. "Nneka, please leave that river alone. Spirits live there, and those who look for answers in its depths often come back with more questions than they can handle." But Nneka could not resist. For weeks, strange voices had haunted her dreams, rising from the water and calling her name in tones that sounded neither male nor female. She felt both fear and longing, as if those whispers carried the weight of fate. Each night, the urge to seek the river grew stronger. As she walked through the cassava fields that morning, the damp earth clung to her feet, and the scent of wet leaves filled the air. The sky above was streaked with gray, and the palm trees swayed, as if they too listened for hidden voices. She wrapped her faded wrapper tighter around her chest, her steps quickening as if guided by an invisible force. The closer she got to Okamili, the heavier her chest felt, as though she carried the weight of an ancient truth. Still, she moved forward, determined to uncover what awaited her. When she reached the clearing, mist curled over the wide river like a living spirit. Its slow current shimmered in the light of the rising sun. Nneka knelt at the bank, dipping her fingers into the cool stream. She thought she was alone until a voice broke the silence. "Nneka." The sound was soft but clear, not carried by the wind but by something eternal. Her heart raced. She froze, her hand trembling above the water. It couldn't be real. Yet, it came again, echoing her name with a weight that silenced her soul. The water rippled, and from its depths emerged a form, a figure made of liquid light. It had no face, yet its presence filled the clearing with power. "You have been chosen," it said. "Your grandmother's grandmother made a promise to me, and now it is your turn to fulfill it." Nneka stumbled backward, her chest heaving with fear. "No," she whispered. "I don't understand." But the voice held both sadness and certainty. "You will understand whether you want to or not. Return when the moon is full, and bring no fear with you." That night, Nneka tossed and turned on her raffia mat. Her mother's steady breathing was the only sound in the hut. The whispers of the river lingered in her bones. She never expected the river to speak, yet it had. Worse, it claimed her bloodline was tied to an ancient promise. The thought wouldn't leave her. The more she tried to shake it off as imagination, the more real the memory became. She saw again the figure of light rising from the water and felt again the weight of its words. Sleep, despite her efforts, would not come. By the second night, Nneka could no longer endure it. She rose when the moon was high, tightening her wrapper against the chill. Her heart pounded with both fear and determination as she stepped into the quiet night. The path to the river felt longer now, stretched by shadows reaching across the farmland. Owls called from tall trees, and crickets sang their sharp songs. Yet, even as the darkness surrounded her, Nneka pressed on. Something stronger than fear drove her, the need to understand what the river wanted from her blood and why. When she reached the riverbank, the waters glowed faintly in the moonlight. Nneka swallowed hard and whispered, "I have come." The river stirred, rippling as if alive. Then the same voice rose, softer yet clearer than before. You are brave to return. Nneka's lips trembled, but she replied, I did not return out of bravery. I came because I need answers. The mist lifted, revealing the shadowy figure again, this time clearer. She saw the form of a tall woman with flowing hair and eyes shining like starlight on water. Okamili had come again. The spirit spoke with authority. I am Okamili, keeper of this river, guardian of balance. Long ago, your ancestor Ebel came to me when your people faced ruin. Crops failed, sickness spread, and hunger consumed Umuokoro. She begged for my help, and I granted it. In return, she swore a covenant that one daughter in every generation would serve me. Not as a servant, but as a bridge, a voice between spirits and the living. Without this bond, balance breaks, rivers dry, and the land suffers. Nneka's chest tightened. A burden she never asked for was now hers to carry. Before Nneka could respond, a terrible noise shattered the night. Screams echoed from a distance, rising with the smell of smoke. Panic seized her heart as she turned, seeing flames licking the sky from her village. Villagers shouted, goats bleated, and children cried. Nneka ran, her bare feet pounding the earth. When she reached the square, her heart sank. Several huts burned, and at the center of the chaos stood a masked man. His body was painted with white symbols, and each step he took seemed to feed the fire. Fear rippled through Umuokoro as his voice thundered. The masked man's voice rose above the flames. His chants were thick with menace. Umuokoro has broken its promise. You have abandoned the covenant. The spirits demand payment. His painted eyes glowed as he stomped the earth, and the fire roared higher, sending sparks scattering into the night. The elders tried to confront him, but their voices trembled against his thunder. The villagers scrambled, throwing sand and water at the flames, but nothing put them out. Suddenly, the man turned his gaze on Nneka. She froze as his painted finger pointed directly at her, and silence filled the square. There, he shouted. The blood of the chosen one runs in her veins. She is the key. Hand her over, and perhaps your village will be spared. A murmur spread through the crowd. Faces turned to Nneka. Some were wide-eyed with shock, others were shadowed by fear, and a few were hardened with resentment. Her mother rushed forward, clutching her daughter tightly. No, over my dead body, she cried. The masked man laughed, a cruel, thunderous sound. You cannot protect her, woman. The river's debt must be paid. Even you know your bloodline owes what it promised generations ago. Pa Nadi, the oldest elder, stepped forward, raising his staff. His voice shook but still held weight. Covenant or no, how do we know you are truly sent by the river spirits? How do we know you are not just a trickster who feeds on our fear? The masked man threw his head back and let out a chilling cry. Immediately, the flames leaned toward him, bowing as if obeying him. Does this look like a trick to you, old man? Your land burns because you forgot your bond. Only one thing can quench this fire, her blood. Nneka's best friend, Ifeoma, suddenly pushed through the panicked crowd. Her round face shone with sweat, but her eyes burned with fierce courage. She planted herself in front of Nneka and shouted, You will not touch her. If the river wants her, let the river speak for itself. We will not hand her over like a goat for slaughter. Gasps rippled through the villagers. Even the masked man hesitated for a moment, his chants silenced by her defiance. His painted eyes narrowed, but before he could speak, a new sound rose, low, deep, and strange. It was not fire. It was water. The ground trembled. Streams of water seeped from the edges of the village, glowing silver beneath the moon. The villagers shrieked, scattering in terror. The streams joined into a swirling pool at the square's center, glowing with unnatural light. From it rose the figure of Okamili, taller and more radiant than before. Enough, her voice boomed, though her lips never moved. At once, the fire hissed and shrank, dying into smoke. The masked man stumbled back, his confidence fading. "I came only to claim what is owed," he stammered. But Okamili's eyes burned like moons. "You twist truth into terror." The masked man's chants faded as Okamili appeared in the square. The villagers shrank back, their fear shifting to awe. Streams of water wrapped around the masked man's ankles, pulling him to his knees. "You are no servant of mine," Okamili boomed. "Leave this place before I swallow you whole." Water splashed against his painted body, washing away the symbols on his skin. Stripped of power, he ran into the darkness, his cries fading into the night. Silence weighed heavy over the village. The fire was out, and the danger had passed. But fear lingered in the villagers' eyes. Okamili looked at Nneka, her form glowing with ancient power. "You see, child, the covenant is not a lie. The river has protected you. But the choice is yours. Will you honor your ancestors' promise or let your people face the hunger of imbalance?" Nneka's knees gave way. She fell to the ground, the weight of her destiny pressing down on her. Her mother rushed to her, cradling her. "Don't answer her," she whispered. "Spirits do not give without taking. Binding yourself to them invites sorrow." Yet Nneka understood the truth within. The villagers spoke among themselves, their voices filled with fear and confusion. Some said Nneka was blessed, chosen to protect them. Others claimed she was cursed, the reason their village nearly burned. Pa Nadi's staff hit the ground, silencing them. The river has spoken. But what lies ahead is for Nneka alone. We will not decide her fate. His voice shook with a mix of respect and fear. Nneka's heart raced, caught between her mother's pleas and the spirit's haunting gaze. Destiny pressed on her, demanding an answer. She looked into Okamili's glowing form, her voice barely a whisper. "What must I do?" The spirit's eyes softened, glowing like moons on calm water. "Come to the river on the night of the next full moon. Alone. Bring no fear with you. Only then will the path show itself." The water stirred, and Okamili faded into mist. The villagers bowed their heads in silence. Some fell to their knees in respect, others turned away, unable to look at Nneka. The silence felt heavier than before, as all eyes now saw her differently. Nneka's mother embraced her tightly, tears flowing down her face. "Don't go," she pleaded. "If you leave, I may never see you again." The spirits are never satisfied with what they take. But Nneka felt something awaken inside her, stronger than fear. She had witnessed how the river rose to protect her, how its power subdued the intruder. She could not deny its reality. The bond was alive, flowing through her veins. Her life was no longer hers alone. She had been chosen. Whether she wanted it or not, her path was decided. The days that followed were tense and uneasy. Whispers trailed Nneka wherever she went. Children who once played with her now clutched their mother's wrappers when she walked by. Women fetching water lowered their voices near her, muttering words of fear and suspicion. Some called her Ogbanj, a cursed child. Others said she was a blessing, a living link between the living and the river. But everyone agreed on one thing: she was no longer just Nneka. She had become something more, and something dangerous. Her life as an ordinary girl ended the moment the river spoke her name. Her mother tried to protect her, encouraging her to stay inside their hut, away from the accusing stares. "This burden is not yours," she whispered at night. "I should have never let you near that cursed river. Let the spirits take back their covenant and leave us alone." But Nneka knew the river's call could not be silenced. It was inside her now, flowing through her like blood. Each night, in her dreams, she heard Idemili's voice echoing. "Bring no fear with you. Only then will the path reveal itself. The full moon was approaching. Her choice was coming closer. The elders debated in quiet circles under the shade of the great Irako tree. Some argued they must protect Nneka and honor her as the chosen one of the covenant. Others worried that keeping her would endanger the entire village. If she fails the covenant, Umuse will suffer, one elder said. It's better to send her away than risk the river's wrath. The debates became heated, but none confronted Nneka directly. She was both the answer and the threat, the hope of their survival and the shadow of their destruction. In silence, she carried their judgment on her shoulders. Ifeoma remained her only constant companion. Fierce and loyal, she brushed aside the whispers. Let them talk, she said, holding Nneka's hand. They don't understand. You are still my sister. You are still Nneka. Spirit or no spirit, I will not leave you. Her words gave Nneka strength, but deep down, she knew she would face the river alone. Even love could not cross the threshold of the covenant. The burden belonged to her alone, just as it had for Ebel generations before. Her friend's loyalty comforted her, but it could not lift the weight from her shoulders. The night before the full moon, Nneka sat outside, staring at the stars. Her mother joined her quietly, her eyes swollen from crying. Promise me you will come back, she whispered. Nneka rested her head on her mother's shoulder. I don't know what will happen, but I promise I will not forget you, no matter where the river takes me. The words broke her mother's heart, but they were all she could offer. As the moon began to rise, Nneka knew her time had come. The path chosen generations earlier awaited her steps into the unknown. The night air was thick with silence, broken only by the distant croak of frogs and the rustle of leaves. The full moon hung like a silver drum in the sky, casting its glow across the village. Nneka rose quietly, her heart pounding with each step. She wrapped a plain cloth around herself and carried no charms, no staff, nothing but her trembling courage. Her mother stirred in her sleep, murmuring Nneka's name, but did not wake. For a moment, Nneka almost turned back. Yet the river's call was relentless and echoed inside her bones. There was no turning away. She walked through the sleeping village, each hut she passed heavy with dreams. Only the crickets marked her steps, chirping in steady rhythm. The path to the river stretched ahead, familiar and yet different beneath the moonlight. The trees loomed taller, their shadows bending like silent guardians. The scent of wet earth grew stronger as she neared the banks. Then she heard it, the faint hum of water, steady and alive. But this night it was not just a sound. It was a voice waiting. Her breath caught, fear mingling with wonder. She had reached the edge of destiny. The river shimmered under the moon, waves glittering like silver scales. Nneka stepped onto the bank, her toes sinking into cool, damp sand. A hush swept through the air, as though even the night held its breath. Suddenly, the water rippled, and from its center rose a shape, graceful, towering, luminous. It was Idemili. Her form glowed with both beauty and terror, serpentine coils twining beneath her waist, her eyes burning like molten silver. You came, the spirit whispered, her voice like rushing streams and crashing waves. You carry no fear? Nneka's lips trembled, but she managed to nod. She stayed. Idemili drifted closer, her presence radiating power that made Nneka's knees weaken. Your ancestor Ebel bound her bloodline to me, the spirit said, her voice flowing like water. Generations have passed, but the agreement remains. Tonight I ask you, will you renew it? Nneka's heart thundered. What does it mean to renew it? She asked, her voice breaking. Idemili's eyes softened. It means becoming the river's voice among men. It means sacrifice. It means power. You will never be ordinary again. But your people will survive as long as you walk between the worlds. Her words shimmered, heavy as stone. Tears filled Nneka's eyes. She thought of her mother, of Ifeoma, and of the children who once played without fear. Was she ready to lose herself so they could live? Silence hung in the air, broken only by the gentle sound of waves. Finally she spoke, her voice steady even though she felt like she was shaking inside. "If it is my fate, I will carry it. I will not turn away." Okamili's expression changed, pride mixed with sorrow. She raised her hand, and waters surged around Nneka, pulling her into the river's embrace. Cold surrounded her, but she did not drown. Instead, she began to transform. The water swallowed Nneka whole, but she did not choke. Instead, the river sang inside her, 1,000 voices rushing like a storm. She felt her body dissolve into currents, and her skin glowed with pale light. Strange visions appeared before her eyes. Ebel stood at the same riverbank, binding herself with courage. Generations of women whispered prayers to Okamili. The balance between the living and the spirit world was upheld through sacrifice. Nneka felt herself woven into this endless thread. She was no longer just a girl from Umuokoro. She was part of something vast and eternal. She belonged to the river now. When she opened her eyes, she was beneath the water but breathing as if it were air. Fish glided past her glowing body, bowing in reverence. The riverbed stretched like an underwater kingdom, jeweled with shells and silver light. Okamili stood beside her, taller and more radiant than before. "This is your inheritance," the spirit said. "Not a curse, but a gift. With it comes power, but also a burden. Your voice will carry weight, your anger may bring storms, and your mercy may heal drought. Guard your heart, child, for the river will echo whatever lies within it." Nneka listened as her fear melted into awe. She stretched out her hand, and the water obeyed her command, spiraling into patterns that danced like fireflies. She gasped, marveling at the strength flowing through her veins. Yet with it came sorrow, for she knew life would never again be simple. "Will I ever be free?" she asked softly. Okamili's gaze was as deep as the river's core. "Freedom is an illusion. Even the river is bound by its banks. But you have a choice. You may choose how to carry this gift. That is your power." Nneka nodded, her heart both heavy and bright. The current shifted, and Okamili reached for Nneka's hand. "It is time," she said. "Return to your people, for they wait in fear and doubt. Show them who you are, and let them decide whether to follow or forsake you." Nneka hesitated. "What if they reject me?" Okamili's smile was sorrowful. "Then you will still be mine, and the river will never abandon you." The waters surged again, wrapping Nneka in swirling light. Her body rose, carried by unseen hands, lifting her toward the surface. She gasped as the night sky returned, moonlight drenching her glowing form. On the riverbank, Ifeoma had waited, disobeying Nneka's plea to stay away. Her eyes widened as she saw her friend rise from the river, radiant and dripping with silver light, her skin shimmering with the glow of spirits. "Nneka!" she cried, rushing forward but stopping short, overwhelmed by awe. Nneka stepped onto the sand, and the water retreated from her feet like a servant bowing to its master. She looked at her trembling hands, then at her friend's wide eyes. A new truth settled into her heart. She was no longer just Nneka. She was the river's chosen, the voice of Okamili. The village awoke before dawn, drawn to the river by whispers of a strange light. Men, women, and children gathered, their faces showing fear and wonder. At the water's edge stood Nneka, her body glowing faintly in the rising sun. Murmurs rippled through the crowd, "River child, which chosen one?" Some dropped to their knees in respect, while others clutched their charms and spat on the ground. Her mother pushed through the crowd, tears running down her face. "My child," she whispered, trembling, "what have you become?" Nneka turned, her heart breaking, but her voice remained steady. I have become what was needed. The elders stepped forward, their red caps bright against the morning haze. Chief Chididike raised his staff, his tone filled with suspicion. You say you are chosen by Okamili, but how do we know this is not a trick? For generations we have feared the river's wrath. Will you bring us peace, or will you curse us further? The crowd held its breath, waiting. Nneka looked at their faces, her mother's sorrow, Ifeoma's hope, the villagers' doubt, and felt the river's current stirring in her chest. This was her test, not in the water, but here, in front of her people. She closed her eyes, reaching deep into the gift she had received. The air went still, then a breeze swirled, carrying the scent of fresh rain. The river behind her surged, rising in tall, glittering waves, yet it did not flood the bank. Instead, the waters bent like a bow, shimmering around the crowd without touching them. Gasps filled the air. Children clutched their mothers, yet no harm came. Nneka lifted her hand, and the water formed shapes, spirals, fish, and finally, a radiant serpent coiling in the sky before dissolving into mist. Silence followed, heavy and holy. This power is not mine alone, Nneka said, her voice carrying like thunder yet soft as a whisper. It belongs to the river, to our ancestors, to the bond that has kept Umuokoro alive. I did not ask for it, but I will not run from it. I am not here to curse you. I am here to protect, to heal, to remind us that we are part of something greater than ourselves. The river does not demand fear, it asks for respect. Her words sank deep, and for a moment, no one moved. Then slowly her mother knelt. Others followed. But not all. Chief Chididike's eyes burned with doubt. Power is a dangerous thing, he muttered. Yet even he could not deny what he had seen. The crowd murmured together, caught between faith and fear. Nneka's gaze lifted to the horizon where the river met the sky. She knew the journey was far from over. Being chosen was not an end, but a beginning. The people might one day reject her, or they might embrace her. But the river had spoken, and she had answered. As the sun climbed, casting golden light on Umuokoro, Nneka stood tall, child of the land, voice of the water, bound forever to Okamili. And so, the river spoke, not with words alone but with power, sacrifice, and truth. Nneka's journey did not end at the water's edge, it had only begun. Some say she walks still by the banks of Okamili, listening to whispers that others cannot hear. Perhaps the question is not whether rivers can talk, but whether we are ready to listen when they do. If this tale moved your heart, do not let it end here. Share it with someone who loves stories, and join us as we bring more African folktales to life. Subscribe so that when the next river speaks, you will be the first to hear its voice.